Hello YouTube, it is your boy GZTV, back with another video. And in this video we're going to be talking about the 2003 slasher film Wrong Turn, directed by Rob Schmidt, written by Alan B. McElroy, I guess. We're going through the plot, the critical reception. This was a spoiler film. It's not like this movie really goes off from the typical slasher plot, I guess, so let's just get into it and then I'll review it. So getting into the plot, college students Rich Stoker and Hallie Smith are rock climbing in a remote forest of West Virginia, and I think that's where this film's going to take place the entire time. I think that's where the main plot takes place as well. When Rich reaches the top of the cliff they are climbing, he's suddenly murdered before he can help Haley up. I don't know why who spells their name like that? So, he's about to help her up the cliff, and all of a sudden, boom, he starts, bleeding, and he's, hanging over the edge. Someone had murdered him, Someone begins to yank Haley, I'll just call her Haley, up the cliff, forcing her to cut the rope and fall to the ground. She would much rather do that than be captured by whoever. She attempts to escape, but is caught in a line of barbed wire and pulled back into the woods, screaming. So, yeah, that's kind of an introduction to our antagonists. We obviously don't really get to see their faces or anything until a little bit later in the film, where the action kind of starts, I guess. Why the fuck does this person have to be mowing the fucking grass, bro? Come on now. If that's loud, I apologize. I kind of have to get this video going now because I have class in an hour 15 and I still need to shower and all that. But sometime later, medical student Chris Flynn drives through the mountains of West Virginia on his way to a business meeting. He stops at a gas station to ask directions, and the elderly owner named Maynard is about no help. And once you see these people, you damn near think this guy could be a part of these people. He fucking looks like it. Chris finds a map and decides to go down Bear Mountain Road, which is kind of like a dirt road, not really He collides with a stopped car whose tires have been punctured, and he's not paying attention. Obviously, if he was paying attention, he could swerve out of the way. Nothing in this movie probably would have ever happened. I mean, if anything, everyone but Chris would have been killed, But I guess they're gonna become very thankful that he came along, even though he did just fucking total their car. Yeah, and the car was stopped in the middle of the road. I guess that's fair. The car belongs to a group of college students on a camping trip: Jesse, Carly, Scott, Evan, and Francine. They soon discover their tire puncture was no accident and find barbed wire wrapped around it and realize someone did this intentionally. Someone was trying to set them up in the forest. And it's a little more than that, These are pretty evil people we're talking about here. Evan and Francine stay to watch the cars while the others go to find help. Evan disappears after he hears something from the woods, and Francine finds his ear on the ground. So yeah, these people didn't come to fuck around, really. I mean, these are pretty terrifying people. As she backs away in horror, barbed wire is forced into her mouth by a mysterious figure who corrodes her with it. Pretty much cuts her. I don't even want to explain it. There's some pretty brutal moments of this film, obviously. I mean, it's not extremely gory. It's not really as gory as it probably should be, but I mean, obviously, they used all practical effects for this film, and I guess it was kind of successful. I don't know. It's a successful movie. I'm not going to say it's a good one either, but so the remaining group find an isolated cabin and go inside to use the phone, horrified to find human body parts in the house. It's like some Ed Gein shit. Maybe that's where they get the inspiration for the film from. Sorry about the cough. They're forced to hide inside when the occupants return home. 3 cannibalistic inbred mountain men, Three Finger, his real name is Andrew, Sawtooth, his real name is Andu, and One Eye, his real name is Tudor. I'm not sure how people figured that out. I didn't see that in the film, but I'm just reading my notes here. They enter the cabin with Francine's corpse, and the hiding group will watch as her body is dismembered and eaten. They're literally watching it right in front of their faces. Oh man, super fucked up. These people are ugly as shit. They're inbreds. I mean, that's kind of what you assume as you're watching it. After the cannibals fall asleep, the group attempts to escape, but their captors awaken and chase them in the forest. And these people are a local legend. They're seen as people with superhuman powers. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think they're just weird looking and kind of terrifying. So The group find cars left from previous victims and try to make up an escape plan. This is where these people take these cars after they kill their victims. Chris gets shot in the leg while trying to distract the cannibals, and the girls take him to a truck where Evan's body spills out. Like, yeah, both these people got fucking killed. Scott attempts another diversion for the other three to escape, but gets killed with arrows instead. So, Francine and Evan die pretty much at the beginning of this little story, and then Scott tries to escape and he dies himself. So, there you have it. Jesse, Carly, and Chris stumble upon an old watchtower with an old radio and try to call for help. So now it's just these three people. It's like any slasher film, slowly throughout the film someone dies, so it's pretty typical stuff. It's really nothing new here. This movie is not even close to being innovative at all. So, it is what it is, I guess. So the cannibals arrive and are alerted when the radio starts responding to the group's call. Unable to get inside, the attackers set the tower on fire. So the protagonists are kind of forced to escape by jumping out and into the trees, triggering a chase in which Carly is decapitated by Three Finger. So there's a whole little fight scene, whatever, and Carly ends up getting her head chopped off. So there you go. There's, who is it, Chris, and who's the other girl? Jesse. Chris and Jesse, and you kind of feel some romantic tension between these two. At the beginning of the movie, once they start meeting each other and get to know each other, Jesse might have feelings for him and he might have feelings for her. So, keep that in mind, I guess. I don't know if that's really that much of an impact. They could have played on that a little more. But Chris pulls a branch while Jesse lures the attacker for the former to release it, knocking him down. Jesse and Chris flee and hide in a cave until morning. The cannibals find them, pushing Chris down the hill, then kidnapping Jesse and taking her back to the cabin. Apparently that's the only one they wanted. Chris survives the fall and meets a police officer, but the officer is killed by Sawtooth, who shoots him in the eye with an arrow. I mean, these guys are pretty accurate hunters, I'm sure. They kind of live this sort of, they're not really nomadic, but they're very primal. They're out in the woods all the time, hunting people. It's pretty strange. These people are very strange. I'm not really sure who came up with the idea to create these characters. I guess they are based on inbred people. I guess that kind of makes sense. Chris hitches a ride by holding onto the underside of the truck as Sawtooth drives it back to the cabin, where Jesse has been tied down to a bed in preparation to be eaten and watches fearfully as the cannibals chop off the dead policeman. You don't really get throughout the film that these are cannibals, but I guess in the newspaper articles they show throughout the film, they are cannibals. So I don't know. Obviously you don't want to watch that on a TV screen. But before they can move on to Jesse, Chris sets the building on fire and drives the truck through the wall. He fights off the three cannibals and frees Jesse, and they escape as Chris kills the cannibals by blowing up the cabin. Or, at least he thinks that. The pair then drive out of the forest in the cannibals' pickup truck and stumble upon Maynard's gas station nearby. Chris takes them out before he and Jesse leave. So, the two protagonists make it out alive. I guess that's interesting. I guess most slasher films only have one person make it out alive. We have two here, and I guess it's because they're kind of romantic for each other. I don't know, but we have a mid-credit scene which is interesting, where a deputy sheriff who had received the radio call earlier investigates the remains of a destroyed cabin. Laughing insanely, Three Finger, who survived the explosion, rises and kills the deputy. So I guess that maybe sets up for the sequel that we got in this film. I'm not really sure how many films are there. I know there's a remake series. This is a franchise. I'm not really sure why, but I don't know. Let's get into the review. The review segment's not going to really be that much because this isn't really much of a movie. It's not that long of a movie. It's under an hour 20, not counting credits. So, even the mid-credit scene didn't even make it an hour 20, which is very interesting. I'm not a huge fan of this, so I feel like it's a pretty average, maybe even below average movie. It's an unremarkable slasher flick that fails to distinguish itself from others of its ilk. People just want to make money. I understand it. It's not great. It's a C movie, really. This could have been a half-decent cross between a Romero zombie movie and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but in the end, the gore is so ridiculously overdone and the script is so lame that it undermines all sense of suspense. There's nothing special about this film. It's not distinguishable from any other slasher film, and that's kind of the trend you get with a lot of slasher films. So, Yeah, I mean, it's better than a lot of, I don't know. It's better than like some Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequels, which a lot of people were comparing because at the time that was kind of the big thing. Which is probably a good thing. I mean, this is a very negative pickup by Fox. It was dumped into theaters on a random Friday without benefit of press reviews, resulting in frightless torpor. I don't know, it's not great. This was already tired stuff when Cold Fate Sleepaway Camp came out in 1983, and it's downright comatose by now. It's a lazy would-be horror film. I don't think it's great at all. It's probably one of the worst movies we've seen on the list. I can't necessarily say it is the worst. I'm sure we've seen other ones that were worse than this. I guess scroll through my reviews, see. But this is a part of the Scratch It series. Every or 2 times a week we're going to be reviewing a movie. Tomorrow we're doing Funny Games. It's a 2007 movie, so click the noti bell if you guys like movie reviews and stuff, and I'm out. This should be posted by 10 o'clock, the 4th of September.